everyone, I am back, and I have a lot to talk about in regards to professional wrestling because it was a bit of a crazy week. I didn't think it could get any crazier after the MJF work, shoot, work promo, but there were some key injuries in both WWE and AEW that impacted the immediate future of both companies creatively, and there's a lot to get through, including the main event to Hell in a Cell, which is a show I had no intention of seeing, and then when it became the talk of the wrestling world, I knew I had to watch at least the main event, so I want to talk about all of that. But before I jump into anything, I want to remind everybody to like this video and subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. And be sure to follow me on Twitter. The link will be in the description. The purpose of my Twitter was to promote my upcoming book, which is a Godzilla-related passion project of mine, but I've ended up veering into many other different random directions. It's like, you give me a Twitter and I'm just going to post whatever random crap comes to my mind. So there's some Godzilla stuff there. There's some a lot of wrestling stuff in there, and whatever random crap comes to my mind. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, go ahead. The link will be in the description. Also, I've been in touch with Eric, and we are planning on doing another episode of Weekday Warriors of Wrestling later this week. We will record either Friday or Saturday, making it a Weekend Warriors of Wrestling episode, but we will have that up and cover the various things that have been happening over the last couple of weeks. Eric actually attended Double or Nothing, and I'm sure he'll want to share a little bit of his live experience there as well. So, like I said, a lot going on here, a lot of stuff happening, and be sure to, if you want to connect with me, those are the ways to do it. Twitter, Weekday Warriors of Wrestling, and subscribe to this channel. All the necessary information will be in the description, so be on the lookout for that. So, yeah, so a lot of stuff happened. It felt like there was some major injury bug going around wrestling in general. Like, Cody Rhodes had his pec torn. CM Punk got hurt, needs surgery, and had to not... He didn't relinquish the title, but there's going to be an interim AEW champion crowned in the meantime while he's on the shelf, and then the interim champion and CM Punk will end up having a match to determine the true world champion, but an interim champion will be crowned in his absence. The process for crowning said champion is a bit convoluted based on the explanation that Tony Khan provided, but I will say this, it does make the MJF situation a little bit more interesting, because now I'm wondering, is he going to play a part in the proceedings in determining an interim champion? Is he going to play some kind of a part in ruining the company and trying to steal the title on his way out or something like that? I don't know. And there's a lot of different ways they can go with this, but I'm intrigued, to say the least. It's a shame that they lost Punk, especially right after he won the title. It's like, man, that was fast. I didn't get to enjoy that for very long, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. I guess it's made Forbidden Door more important, because at first I think a lot of us were thinking, oh, that's fun. It's an AEW New Japan co-brand show. It's like, that's fun, but now it's like, oh, the interim champion's going to be crowned at this event, so it's a little bit more important, and I guess that helps. So we'll see how it all plays out. Again, it's a shame what happened to Punk, but them's the breaks. And then I'm hearing that, like, Adam Cole got hurt and Danielson got hurt, and in WWE, Randy Orton got hurt. He's going to be off TV for a while. On the indie scene, Matt Cardona got hurt, which is huge, because he's become one of the top attractions of the indie scene in the last year or so. And losing him is going to be a big loss to several companies, not just GCW and... but also Impact, NWA, and anybody else that was willing to book him. So that's going to be a huge loss to the indie wrestling scene. A lot of crazy stuff going on in that regard, but the big one, obviously, I referenced it earlier, was Cody Rhodes and his participation in the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view main event, which, again, I had no interest in seeing this pay-per-view. I did not watch this pay-per-view as it was happening, but when I heard about the Cody Rhodes situation, I saw the pictures floating around on social media about what he looked like and how bad the injury really was. Torn pectoral muscle, I was like, good God, Cody is absolutely insane. And he is. Cody's an absolute freak. And I've been saying it for years and years, like when he first started in WWE. It's like, this kid gives 110% into anything and everything he's given. And that's probably Cody's best quality, is that, you know, this is the kid, the star, the talent that was given the Stardust gimmick, and he could have half-assed it, he could have shat on it, he could have half-heartedly done it, and the gimmick would have failed anyway. But Cody was like, you know what? This gimmick may fail, but it won't be because I failed. It won't be my fault that this gimmick failed. And he went out there and played it to the hilt, poured 110% into that character, way more than any human being would. And he, again, it still sucked, but it wasn't Cody's fault that it sucked. He did everything he could to make that gimmick work. And that's the type of talent. When they let him go, I was like, they're losing somebody special there, because not a whole lot of guys would be willing to do what he did with things like the Stardust gimmick and other poor gimmicks that he was given during his time there. It's like he's a guy that will go above and beyond to make something work, and that's a valuable commodity to have. And then you saw it in the indie scene and ROH. You saw it in AEW, how far Cody's willing to go to really make something work. And when WWE got him back earlier this year, Cody overnight became like the top guy in WWE, at least the top babyface. And I'm like, yeah, he's good. And, the AEW audience turned on him towards the end there. And I felt like he had to leave AEW, because if he's not going to turn heel, which I actually would have, and if I were him, I would have turned heel. I would have been like, oh, great, they're reacting, let's run with it. But if he's not going to turn heel, it's like, well, then you got to leave, because you're kind of making the product look bad, because you're supposed to be one of the top faces, and most audiences are just completely shitting on you. So it just creates a very awkward atmosphere. And so I think the change of environment was very good for him. It allowed him to freshen himself up. And now in WWE, he's like the man. And here he is. He's already headlining a pay-per-view. But Hell in a Cell, I've said it before with WWE, they've killed that gimmick, destroyed it. Even before the Fiend Seth Rollins match, that gimmick was kind of destroyed. Because they had overexposed it with the pay-per-view. They had, the company's PG now, so you can't have blood in a Hell in a Cell match, which kind of kills it. They were giving Hell in a Cell to feuds that did not deserve to be Hell in a Cell. Were not Hell in a Cell caliber feuds. That should be reserved for the very, very heated situations that need to be resolved inside the demonic structure of Hell in a Cell. And instead it became a cheap marketing ploy to promote a pay-per-view. And they'd reduced it down to nothing. And then they did the Fiend Seth Rollins match, which is, for my money, and for my opinions, whatever that's worth, probably the worst, the most poorly constructed match I have ever seen in the history of professional wrestling. There are matches that have a lot more botches, and the performers perform poorly, and that's what makes the match bad. That is not what happened here. I think the Fiend and Seth Rollins did exactly the match that was laid out to the best of their abilities. It was just the match itself was complete and utter garbage, and I cannot believe that was... Like, somebody put that match together and thought it was a good idea. I don't know if the wrestlers had input into it. I don't know if it was the agents. I don't know if it was Vince. I don't know what the deal was. But whatever it was the most poorly constructed match in the history of the business. And for me, it completely killed the Hell in a Cell concept. And I was like, well, I don't care about this anymore. Moving on. And so I had no intention of seeing this pay-per-view. And again, I still haven't seen the pay-per-view, but I will give them credit. I looked at the card and I was like, oh, they only have one Hell in a Cell match, and it's the one that's been a feud that's been going since WrestleMania? Improvement? I mean, even if you're going to do a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, you don't have to have 3 Hell in a Cell matches on the same card. It's kind of like my problem with TNA Lockdown. It's like, look, you don't have to have 8 cage matches. It's like, look, I think 2 is a bad idea. But even if you there's no reason to be more than 2. It's just ridiculous. And how they've really devalued a lot of the gimmicks. Things that are supposed to be... to me, a gimmick match is supposed to complement the feud and raise it to the next level, not be used as a cheap way to sell a pay-per-view, because some people fall for that. I mean, there are consumers that be like, ooh, Hell in a Cell, cool, I'll buy that. Or, oh, cool, all cage matches, I'll buy that. But it doesn't have any kind of real substance to it. You're just it's just a cheap marketing trick. And that's a creatively bankrupt thing to have. So when I saw that there was only one Hell in a Cell match on this card, I was like, oh, thank God, they're actually improving. And they gave it to the right guys. But then I heard Cody got hurt, and I was like, well, that kills that. And then I heard that Cody was going to perform, and I saw the pictures floating around from the match of the severity of the injury. I was like, oh my God, Cody is... I said he goes 110%. In this match, he went 120%. I mean, that is absolutely insane. So I went back and I did watch that match. I didn't watch the rest of the show, but I did watch that match. And if I respected Cody Rhodes before, that respect like increased significantly because it reminded me of situations like, some of the guys who really sacrifice for their work, for their art. Like Mick Foley, a couple of the insane matches he's done, and the crazy bumps he's taken, not just in Hell in a Cell, but in other matches. Like, if you watch his Cactus Jack stuff from ECW and WCW, it's like Foley just went above and beyond the Call of Duty. I think back to Judgment Day 2004, where Eddie Guerrero like bled like a running faucet. In order to make that match with JBL work. When the entire world was doubting that match, Eddie went above and beyond any kind of reasonable expectation to make that match memorable and make it work. And it worked out because it's one of my all-time favorite matches, probably my favorite Eddie Guerrero match. But I was also scared to death watching the whole thing because I thought Eddie was going to die right there on pay-per-view. But it did make the match more exciting. And another example I was thinking of was Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19 working the main event of that match with a broken neck, needing neck surgery. And it's like, he's going up there with Brock, who's at the time not the safest opponent. And he's in the main event spot, got to drop the belt to the young prospect that Vince really likes in Brock and thinks they can build a future around, which in a weird way they ended up doing, not the way I'm sure Vince initially intended, but they did end up building a lot around Brock. Almost a decade after the fact, but I think back to that. It's like Kurt Angle is absolutely insane to do that because he could have backed out of that match and nobody would have blamed him. And I distinctly remember this. I did not watch WrestleMania 19 live because I didn't want to watch Kurt Angle get paralyzed live on pay-per-view. So what I did was I ordered the pay-per-view, waited for the show to be over. And then I was like, okay, did Kurt Angle die? And then the person I was talking to at the time said, no, he's fine. And I'm like, okay, great. Then I went back and watched the show. I guess I could have just watched up until the main event, but in my mind, I didn't know which match Kurt Angle and Brock was going to be, so I just figured I'll watch the show after the fact. But in any case, that like A for effort for Kurt Angle for going through with that match and putting himself in harm's way for the sake of his art form. And you see that a lot in guys. And, this move by WWE to have Cody go out there and do this has been criticized by some people. And it's one of those things where it's like, how much faith do you have in the performer? How much faith do you have that the performer can actually go out there and deliver? Or it's kind of like an injured quarterback in the NFL. If he's hurt, do you trust him enough to go out there and make magic happen, or do you bench him for his own good? And I think that's a situation where the powers that be have to like monitor those situations. Now, I'll be honest. If I had taken one look at Cody, I'd have been like, "You're not going out there. You can kick and scream all you want. I'm not letting you go out there." But that's me. The powers that be, I guess, assumed that Cody could go out there and do it, and I watched that whole match, and it's funny because if you go back and watch that match, they didn't really use the cell that much at all, if at all. I don't recall them. They didn't climb up on top of the cell. They didn't. I don't even recall them like ramming up against the steel cage or anything. If they did, it wasn't a big element of the match. They could have had that same exact match without the cell. But nobody noticed because it was one of the most gut-wrenching things ever because every bump that Cody took felt like it hurt 10 times more because he was really in pain. And it was absolutely crazy. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's one of my favorite matches of all time or anything, but it's one of the gutsiest performances I've seen in a long time. And, he's working with Seth Rollins, who has had an unfortunate history of hurting some guys. He busted Cena's nose open. He hurt, Sting got hurt working with him. Finn Balor got hurt working with him. So it's kind of like there's a history there that suggests that maybe Seth isn't the safest worker. That's a criticism that some people have had. I'm willing to chalk those situations up to other factors, and not necessarily because Seth is reckless. But in any case, that was kind of on my mind a little bit when I went into this, but I think both Cody and Seth were able to go out there and do the best work that they possibly could under the circumstances. Seth coming out in the Dusty Rhodes polka dots was great. Add a little extra fuel to the fire. And the match ended up being very exciting and Again, one of the gutsiest performances I've seen in a long time. And Cody is, and I wish I could say I was surprised that Cody did it, but then again, it's like I've been watching Cody for years, and I know the guy is fearless, and he'll do. I mean, just a few months back, while he was still in AEW, he did a match where he took a flaming table spot bareback. I mean, yeah, he obviously had like flame retardant rubbed on his back, because it's like, what's that gooey stuff hanging off of his back? And I was like, that's flame retardant. He's gonna go through a flaming table anyway. But how many of you would be willing to go through a flaming table even with the flame retardant on your back? I would not. I'll be honest, I would not. Even if all the safety precautions in the world were taken, I'd be like, absolutely not. Nope, not doing it. But yeah, so I just wanted to come on here and talk about Cody Rhodes, because that was an absolutely unbelievable performance on his part. And if Cody Rhodes wasn't the number one guy in WWE before, or at least I should say number one babyface in WWE before, he is now. And unfortunately, they're not going to have him for 6 months because of the injury. So, but some people question the decision to have Cody go over Seth in this situation. I'm thinking in the short term it might seem bad because Seth lost to an injured guy, and Seth is going to be there on TV. But Seth kind of got his heat back by attacking Cody on Raw or whatever. So whatever. But I think in long term it works better because Cody's still undefeated and he's being prepped up as a potential challenger to Roman Reigns. So you want to keep him unbeaten and as strong as possible. So it made more sense to have Cody go over here. And even if he's going to be off TV for a while, at least protect his character on the way out, so that when you eventually do get around to that Cody-Roman match, which should probably be the WrestleMania main event, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be Rock and Roman. And I'm like, no disrespect to Rock, but that would be an example of relying on the past to create a moment for the present. And for me, it's like, yeah, but you've got this guy who's ready right now. That is the present. And yeah, he's going to be off TV for a while, but when he gets back, it's going to be getting close to time to kick off WrestleMania season. It's like, all right, you got your Royal Rumble winner lined up, I think. And just do Cody and Roman at WrestleMania. That would be my plan right now. And have him get his 1996 Royal Rumble Shawn Michaels moment where he comes back from injury and wins the thing. I think that would be great. But other things going on, Edge got kicked out of his new stable that just started. I don't know all of the reasoning for why this happened. I can assume it's because they lost Cody and they need faces. That's my assumption. And this is just a plan B that they've cooked up out of nowhere. And, Finn Balor's going to be leading that Judgment Day group now, which is interesting, I guess. They're turning it into some kind of a cross between the Ministry of Darkness and the Bullet Club. Who knows? But again, we'll see how all that plays out. And so, yeah, I think the decision to do that was probably, let's turn Edge face because we lost Orton and we lost Cody. So it's like, let's pull the Knicks on Edge being a heel because we need some top-tier faces. And speaking of WWE needing baby faces, John Cena is going to be coming back for another run. I know John Cena has a lot of fans out there that grew up watching him and, got into watching wrestling when he was the top guy and they were kids and they looked up to him and everything. He's got a lot of those fans. I completely get that. I am not one of those fans. And John Cena has kind of been the poster boy for periods in WWE that I absolutely hated. I couldn't stand his character. I got sick of his matches and everything. So no, John Cena is not going to make the WWE product more exciting for me personally. Now, I'm sure he'll bring people in because, like I said, he's got a lot of fans out there, but I'm not one of them. So those are my thoughts on that. Yeah, I just wanted to come up here and completely put over Cody's performance because that was one of the gutsiest things I've seen in a long time. And kudos to him for being willing to do it. Now, stay home, get your rest, do your rehab, don't rush back, don't be crazy. And I know telling Cody Rhodes to not be crazy is like spitting into the wind, but I figured I'd try, at least in that regard. But mad props to Cody Rhodes for that performance. I want to put that over. It'll probably be... I would be very surprised if that wasn't the most memorable match that the WWE puts on this year. Possibly, when we get to match of the year contenders and things like that, I imagine this match is going to rank up very high for a lot of people for the reasons that I've stated. So, yeah, I think that's about it. I'm going to have some more videos lined up, more updates about the book are coming. It's still in the editorial review process. I can say that much, but But I should have more concrete updates over the next few days. I'm expecting a significant update coming in a few days, so be on the lookout for that. But again, just a reminder, follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. Be sure to check out Weekday Warriors of Wrestling. Link to that channel is in the description. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Enjoy AEW Dynamite tonight, and I will see you all later.